everyone, what's up? Welcome back. It's Kat, your new favorite ginger bibliophile, and I hope you're all doing really well, and I hope you're in the mood for some story time and maybe some puppies. Little man just went on guard duty after his checking on mama session, and Franny's not quite down for a nap yet, so we might get some cute visitors. But in the meantime, it's Tales from 1001 Nights, and I didn't plan it this way, but this week's story is perfect because I'm doing the Once Upon a Read-a-thon. It's going the whole month of June, and I decided to go Team Pirates. And today's story is the tale of King Sinbad and the Falcon. And he's no Jack Sparrow, but he's definitely a well-known pirate. So hopefully this one turns out really well, and we'll have some fun. And if you haven't already, think about hitting that like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the future fun coming up. Because I promise there will be some animals and plenty of book reviews coming along with more story time. So, let's see. How is this one going to go? I have no idea. I haven't read this one yet either. Once upon a time, went on King Yunan, there was a Persian king who was a great lover of riding and hunting. He had a falcon which he himself had trained with loving care, which never left his side for a moment. For even at night time he carried it perched upon his fist when he went hunting, took it with him. Hanging from the bird's neck was a little bowl of gold from which it drank. Now that is a fancy bird. One day the king ordered his men to make ready for a hunting expedition and, taking with him his falcon, rode out with his courtiers. At length they came to a valley where they laid the hunting nets. Presently a gazelle fell into the snare, and the king said, "I will kill the man who lets her escape." They drew the nets closer and closer around the beast. On seeing the king, the gazelle stood on her haunches, raised her forward legs to her head as if she wished to salute him. But as he bent forward to lay hold of her, she leaped over his head and fled across the field. Looking round, the king saw his courtiers winking at one another. "Why are they winking?" asked his vizier. "Perhaps because you let the beast escape," ventured the other, smiling. "On my life," cried the king, "I will chase this gazelle and bring her back." At once he galloped off in pursuit of the fleeing animal, and when he had caught up with her, his falcon swooped upon the gazelle, blinding her with his beak. "Aw, poor cute little gazelle." And the king struck her down with a blow of his sword. Then, dismounting, he flayed the animal and hung the carcass on his saddle bow. It was a hot day, and the king, who by this time had become faint with thirst, went to search for water. Presently, however, he saw a huge tree, down the trunk of which water was trickling in great drops. He took the little bowl from the falcon's neck and, filling it with this water, placed it before the bird. But the falcon knocked the bowl with its beak and toppled it over. The king once again filled the bowl and placed it before the falcon, but the bird knocked it over a second time. Upon this, the king became very angry and, filling the bowl a third time, set it down before his horse. But the falcon sprang forward and knocked it over with his wing. "Allah curse you for a bird of ill omen!" cried the king. "You have prevented yourself from drinking, and the horse also." So saying, he struck the falcon with his sword and cut off both its wings. Well, so much for beloved falcon. But the bird lifted its head as if to say, "Look into that tree." The king raised his eyes and saw in the tree an enormous serpent spitting his venom down the trunk. The king was deeply grieved at what he had done, and, mounting his horse, hurried back to the palace. He threw his kill to the cook, and no sooner had he sat down, with the falcon still perched on his fist, than the bird gave a convulsive gasp and dropped dead. The king was stricken with sorrow and remorse for having so rashly killed the bird which had saved his life. When the vizier heard the tale of King Yunan, he said, "I assure your majesty that my counsel is prompted by no other motive than my devotion to you and my concern for your safety. I beg leave to warn you that, if you put your trust in this physician, it is certain that he will destroy you. Has he not cured you by a device held in the hand? And might he not cause your death by another such device?" "You have spoken wisely, my faithful vizier," replied the king. Well, that's quite the turn from the last story. Indeed, it is quite probable that this physician has come to my court as a spy to destroy me. And since he cured my illness by a thing held in the hand, He might cunningly poison me with the scent of a perfume. What should I do, my vizier?" "Send for him at once," replied the other, "and when he comes, strike off his head, and thus shall you be secure from his perfidy." Thereupon the king sent for the doctor, who hastened to the palace with a joyful heart, not knowing what lay in store for him. "Do you know why I have sent for you?" asked the king. "Allah alone knows the unspoken thoughts of men," replied the physician. "I have brought you here to kill you," said the king. The physician was thunderstruck at these words and cried, "But why should you wish to kill me? What crime have I committed?" "It has come to my knowledge," replied the king, "that you are a spy sent here to cause my death, but you shall be the first to die." Then he called out the executioner, saying, "Strike off the head of this traitor." "Spare me, and Allah will spare you," cried the unfortunate doctor. "Kill me, and so shall Allah kill you." But the king gave no heed to his entreaties. "Never will I have peace again," he cried, "until I see you dead. For if you cured me by a thing held in my hand, then you will doubtless kill me by the scent of perfume, or by some other foul device." "Is it thus that you repay me?" asked the doctor. "Will you thus requite good with evil?" The king said, "You must die. Nothing can save you now." When he saw that the king was determined to put him to death, the physician wept and bitterly repented the service he had done him. Then the executioner came forward, blindfolded the doctor, and, drawing a sword, held it in readiness for the king's signal. But the doctor continued to wail, crying, "Spare me, and Allah will spare you. Kill me, and so shall Allah kill you." Moved by the old man's lamentations, one of the courtiers interceded for him with the king, saying, "Spare the life of this man, I pray you. He has committed no crime against you, but rather he has cured you of an illness which your physicians have failed to remedy." "If I spare this doctor," replied the king, "he will use his devilish arts to kill me. Therefore he must die." Again the doctor cried, "Spare me, and Allah will spare you. Kill me, and so shall Allah kill you." But at last he saw that the king was fixed in his resolve. He said, "Your Majesty, if you needs must kill me, I beg you grant me a day's delay so that I may go to my house and wind up my affairs. I wish to say farewell to my family and my neighbors, and instruct them to arrange for my burial. I must also give away my books of medicine, of which there is one, a work of unparalleled virtue, which I offer to you as a parting gift, that you may preserve it among the treasures of your kingdom." "What may this book be?" asked the king. "It holds secrets and devices without number, the least of them being this, that if, after you have struck off my head, you turn over 3 leaves of this book and read the first 3 lines upon the left-hand page, my severed head will speak and answer any questions you may ask it." The king was astonished to hear this, and at once ordered his guards to escort the physician to his home. That day the doctor put his affairs in order, and next morning returned to the king's palace. "Well, that's bold. I would have found a way to screw him over. Which hopefully is going to happen anyway." There had already assembled the viziers, the chamberlains, the nabobs, that's a new one, and all the chief officers of the realm, so that with their colored robes the court seemed like a garden full of flowers. The doctor bowed low before the king, and in one hand held out an ancient book, and in the other a little bowl filled with a strange powder. Then he sat down and said, "Bring me a platter." A platter was instantly brought in, and the doctor sprinkled the powder on it, smoothing it over with his fingers. After that he handed the book to the king and said, "Take this book and set it down before you. When my head has been cut off, place it upon the powder to staunch the bleeding. Then open the book." The king ordered the executioner to behead the physician. He did so. Then the king opened the book and, finding the pages stuck together, put his finger in his mouth and turned over the first leaf. After much difficulty, he turned over the second and the third, moistening his fingers with his spittle at every page, and tried to read. But he could find no writing there. "There is nothing written in this book," cried the king. "Go on turning," replied the severed head. The king had not turned 6 pages when poison, for the leaves of the book had been treated with venom, began to work in his body. He fell backward in an agony of pain, crying, "Poisoned! Poisoned!" and in a few moments breathed his last. That's what you get for killing the people that cure you. "Now, treacherous genie," continued the fisherman, Had the king spared the physician, he in turn would have been spared by Allah, but he refused, and Allah brought about the king's destruction. And as for you, if you had been willing to spare me, Allah would have been merciful to you, and I would have spared your life. But you sought to kill me. Therefore I will throw you back into the sea and leave you to perish in this bottle. So that's why it's still under Fisherman and the Genie, which I don't know if y'all can make that out very well, but yep, Fisherman and the Genie is the heading for this story. Nice. Yeah, I'm geeky like that. I get excited when they put the title in something. Let me out, in the name of Allah, cried the Genie. Do not be angry with me, I pray you. If I had done you evil, repay me with good, and as the saying goes, punish me with kindness. Do not do as Umama did to Atika. That's a story I don't know. And neither does the fisherman. What is their story? Asked the fisherman. This bottle is no place to tell stories in, cried the Genie, writhing with impatience. Let me out, and I will tell you all that passed between them. Never, replied the fisherman. I will throw you into the sea, and you shall remain imprisoned in your bottle till the end of time. Let me out, cried the Genie in despair. I swear that I'll never harm you, and promise to render you a service that will enrich you. Oscar Bosker! Hush it up. Somebody's daring to come down the street, and he's told you he's on guard duty. And mad about it. At length, the fisherman accepted the Genie's pledge, and after he had made him swear by the Most High name, opened the bottle with trembling hands. At once smoke burst out, and in a twinkling took the shape of a gigantic Genie, who with a triumphant kick sent the bottle flying into the sea. When the fisherman saw the bottle disappear beneath the water, he was so overcome with terror that he wetted his drawers. This is a bad sign, he thought, but quickly putting on a defiant air, cried, Mighty Genie, Allah has said in his sacred book, be true to your promises, or we will call you to account. You have both promised and sworn that you would not deal treachery with me. Therefore, if you break your pledge, Allah will punish you. For he is a jealous God, and though he may be slow in retribution, he does not forget. Remember that I said to you, as the physician said to the king, spare me, and Allah will spare you. At this, the Genie fell into convulsions of laughter and cried, Follow me! Still dreading the Genie's intent, the fisherman walked on behind him until they left the city. They climbed a mountain and at length descended into a vast and barren valley, in the middle of which there was a lake. At the shore of this lake, the Genie halted and bade the fisherman cast his net. The fisherman saw white fish and red fish, blue fish, and yellow fish, sporting in the water. Marveling at the sight, he cast his net into the lake, and when he withdrew it, rejoiced to find in it 4 fish, each of a different color. Take these fish to the king's palace, said the Genie, and he will give you gold. In the meantime, I must beg you to pardon the scant courtesy I have shown you, for I have dwelt so long at the bottom of the sea that I have forgotten my manners. Come and fish in this lake each day, but only once a day. And now, farewell. So saying, the Genie stamped his feet against the earth, which instantly opened and swallowed him up. The fisherman went back to his house, marveling at all that had befallen him. He filled an earthen bowl with water, and, placing the fish in it, carried upon his head to the king's palace, as the Genie had bidden him. When he had gained admission to the king's presence, he offered him the fish. The king, who had never seen their like in size or color, marveled greatly, and ordered his vizier to take them to the black cookmaid. Well, this slave girl had been sent to the king as a present 3 days before by Caesar, and the king had no opportunity to test her culinary skill. So the vizier took the 4 fish to the slave girl and ordered her to fry them, saying, The king has reserved you I'm not going to say that one, for a great occasion. Let us have proof today of your accomplishments. Well, you can definitely tell when this was written. The king ordered the vizier to give the fisherman 400 pieces of gold. The fisherman received the coins in the lap of his skirt and departed in a transport of joy. He bought bread, meat, and other necessities and hurried home to his wife and children. Meanwhile, the slave girl cleaned the fish, put them in the frying pan, and left them over the fire. When they were well cooked on one side, she turned them over, but scarcely had she done so when the wall of the kitchen suddenly opened, and through it entered a beautiful young girl. Her eyes were darkened with kohl, her cheeks were smooth and fresh, and her breasts were round and shapely. Well, guess where that's going to end up going? She wore jeweled rings on her fingers and gold bracelets on her wrists, and her hair was wrapped in blue-fringed kerchief of the rarest silk. The girl came forward and, thrusting into the frying pan a wand she carried in her hand, said, "Fish, fish, are you still faithful?" At the sight of this apparition, the slave fainted away, and the young girl repeated her question a second and a third time. Then the 4 fishes lifted their heads from the pan and replied in unison, "Yes, yes, we are faithful." Upon this, the young girl overturned the pan and went out the way she had come, the wall of the kitchen closing behind her. When the slave girl came to her senses, she found the fish burnt to cinders. She set up a great screaming and hurried to tell the vizier all that had happened. Amazed at her story, the vizier sent at once for the fisherman and ordered him to bring 4 other fish of the same kind. So the fisherman went to the lake and, casting his net, caught 4 more fish. These he took to the vizier, who carried them to the slave girl, saying, "Rise now and fry these in my presence." The slave cleaned the fish and put them in the frying pan, but scarcely had she done so when the wall opened as before, and the girl reappeared, dressed in the same way and still holding the wand in her hand. And we even get a little picture there. And the little man is off his guard duty and come to visit. The 4 fish raised their heads and replied, "Yes, yes, we are faithful." And the girl overturned the pan with her wand and vanished through the wall. "The king must be informed of this," cried the vizier, and, hurrying to his master, recounted to him all that he had seen. "I must see this for myself," said the king in astonishment. He sent for the fisherman and ordered him to bring 4 more fish. The fisherman again hastened to the lake and promptly returned with the fish, for which he received 400 pieces of gold. Then the king commanded his vizier to cook the fish in his presence. "I hear and obey," replied the vizier. And apparently somebody's daring to be on the street again. He cleaned the fish and set the pan over the fire. But scarcely had he thrown them in when the wall opened, and there appeared a great Negro, as ugly as a bull and taller than a warrior of the tribe of Aid. He held a great twig in his hand, and as soon as he set eyes on the pan, roared out, "Fish, fish, are you still faithful?" The 4 fishes lifted their heads and replied, "Yes, yes, we are faithful." Then the Negro overturned the pan with his twig and disappeared through the chasm in the wall, leaving the 4 fishes burnt to black cinders. Confounded at this spectacle, the king cried, "By Allah, I must find the answer to this riddle. No doubt these fishes have some strange history." He sent again for the fisherman and asked him whence he had brought the fish. "From a lake between the 4 hills," replied the fisherman, "beyond the mountain which overlooks this city." "How many days' journey is it?" asked the king. "It's barely half an hour's walk, your majesty." The king set out for the lake at the head of his troops, taking with him the bewildered fisherman, who led the way, muttering curses at the genie as he went. At length they came to the mountain and, climbing to the top, descended into a great desert which they had never seen before. They all marveled at the mountains, the lake, and the fish of different colors which swam in it. The king asked the troops if any of them had ever seen a lake in that place, and when they all replied that they had not, he said, "By Allah, I will never again enter my city or sit upon my throne until I have solved the mystery of this lake and these colored fishes." He ordered his troops to pitch their tents for the night, and, summoning his vizier, who was a wise counselor and a man of deep learning, said to him, "Know that I have decided to go out alone this night and search for the answer to the mystery of the lake and fishes. I wish you to stand guard at the door of my tent and tell anyone who may wish to see me that I am ill and that no one is to be admitted to my presence. Above all, you must keep my plan secret." At nightfall, the king disguised himself, girded on his sword, and slipped out from the camp unnoticed by his guards. All that night and throughout the following day he journeyed on, stopping only to rest a while at midday heat. Early next morning he sighted a black building in the distance. He rejoiced and thought, "There perhaps I shall find someone who can tell me the history of the lake and the fishes." "Franny, bunch of loudmouths. Drawing nearer, he found that this was a towering palace built of black stone sheeted with iron. The boyfriend's home. He must be greeted properly by the doggies. I'm not allowed. He went up to the great double door, one half of which was wide open, and knocked gently once, twice, and again. Franny! Not that they're going to listen much. The fourth time he knocked hard, but still received no reply. Supposing the palace to be deserted, he summoned up his courage and entered, calling out at the top of his voice, "People of this house, have you any food for a weary traveler?" This he repeated again and again, and, getting no answer, walked through the long vestibule to the center of the building. The hall was richly carpeted and hung with fine curtains and splendid tapestries. In the middle of the inner court, a beautiful fountain resting on 4 lions of red gold spurted forth a jeweled spray, and about the fountain fluttered doves and pigeons, under a golden net stretched above the courtyard. The king marveled greatly at the splendor of all that he beheld, but grieved to find no one in the palace who could explain the mystery. As he was loitering pensively about the court, however, he suddenly heard a low, mournful voice, which seemed to issue from a heart laden with grief. The king hastened in the direction from which the sound proceeded, and presently came to a doorway concealed behind a curtain. Lifting the curtain, he saw a handsome youth, dressed in a gold-embroidered robe of Egyptian silk, lying on a bed in a great marble hall. His brow was as white as a lily, and on his cheek was a mole with like a speck of black amber. The king rejoiced to see the young man, and greeted him, saying, "Peace be with you." But the youth, whose eyes were sore with weeping, remained motionless on the bed, and returned the king's greeting, in a faint voice, saying, "Pardon me, sir, for not rising." "Pray, tell me the story of the lake and the fishes," said the king, "and the reason of your tears and your solitary sojourn in this palace." At these words the youth wept and even more bitterly, and replied, "How can I refrain from weeping, condemned as I am to this unnatural state?" So saying, he stretched out his hand and lifted the skirt of his robe. The king was astonished to see that the lower half of his body was all of stone, while the upper half, from his waist to the hair upon his head, remained that of a living man. "The story of the fishes," said the youth, "is indeed a strange story. If it were written with a needle on the corner of an eye, it would yet serve as a lesson to those who seek wisdom." Upon this, the youth proceeded to recount the tale of the enchanted king. So I guess that's where we will start next week. So, see you then. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you soon. Bye. Happy reading.